300. What's the deal? It's your folks Shaka. I wanted to share my thoughts with y'all real quick. So yeah, I wanted to speak about that whole Riverfront brawl. Few folks have asked for my thoughts on it. We spoke about it a little bit on Reddit, but just making some commentary about it here today. That's why I'm making the video. And so I know that if you're watching this video, you've seen what transpired down there at that dock in Montgomery, Alabama. But just sharing my thoughts on it, the first thing I want to say is, have y'all noticed how virtually none of those celebrities are speaking on this situation? Okay? Pay attention to that. They didn't have no problem with pulling up, talking about paying tuition for, a so-called black child murdering a grown man. Okay? And chaotic things like that should not happen. Okay? But they are very quiet about so-called black folks defending themselves, okay, for a constructive reason that we could obviously see. Which in that situation, there was something that was going to happen to a so-called black man who was just doing his job unjust. And he stood for himself, and so-called black people stood in to back him up. Alright? These celebrities, they don't co-sign so-called black folks defending themselves for constructive reasons. Okay? When it actually means something to the collective of so-called black people. It ain't the whole black queen narrative and, all of these old other crazy things. Alright? That in a nutshell, that will equal chaos. This is different. They will get behind you when you need to pull up to beg these so-called other people to change so that your life could be better. Alright? They'll put on that disguise and get behind that and act like they care about so-called black people and they're one with you. But that's just because it's all a part of their game. Alright? So pay attention to that. That's the first thing I want to say. Second thing is, the positive thing in that situation, or one of the positive lessons is, it was, for the most part, hands on deck. There were no deadly weapons brought to the scene. Okay? No matter what side it was on. Even when people were kind of like at a disadvantage on that other side, they didn't pick up weapons. Okay? And that's a cool thing. That's a positive thing. They kept it old school like that. When things like that occur at a pedestrian level, okay, in a civilized society, that's the most you want to happen. All right? Now, there was a so-called black man that pulled out a chair. All right? That is the highlight of, one of the highlights of that brawl. Okay? And if we just kept it a buck, alright, it is somewhat out of context. Okay, because everybody else kind of like had their hands on deck. But to keep it real, alright, they started the whole situation unfair. You did. Because as y'all know, again, there was a so-called black man on the job. And he was instructing some so-called white men to move a boat that was parked there illegally, okay, at the dock. He got into a verbal altercation with them. The main dude he was, I think, going back and forth with jumped at him, and so-called black man threw his hat in the air and it was on from there. Okay, they were initially one-on-one, but then, like we expect, okay, these cowards, so-called other white men jumped in, okay, tried to jump in on that brother. And there were other so-called black folks helping hand just pedestrians out there that wasn't having that. Okay, they pulled up. Everybody know about the so-called black man that swam across 7 seas to put his little 2 cents in the game. You know what I'm saying? It really turned up. And so they started it out unfair. So on the flip side, yeah, the so-called black man pulled out the chair, but they started it unfair anyway. And so just, man, after that, man, look, I mean, the energy that dude had to jump at that so-called black man like that anyway, because as y'all can see, had they continued to go one-on-one, that dude would have easily been overpowered. Okay? Alright? But the reason why he had that kind of energy anyway is, like I said, to so-called black folks, it has a lot to do with the standard that we have when we're dealing with these other people. A lot of these other people got a lot of juice in them today that they didn't have yesterday at a pedestrian level. Okay? And it has a lot to do with how we deal with them. Okay? You know, and how we give them passes on a lot of things we should not give them passes for. We play a lot of games that we should not be pulling up to play when it comes to these people. All right? And I'm not talking about, you know, it should always come down to a brute mindset or type of thing, you know, because fighting really, you know what I'm saying, it should be the last thing that has to go down. No different than war, okay? It should be the last thing before it even gets to that. We should have some type of standard for ourselves and these other people at a civilian level to where they ain't even wasting their time stunting like this. Because like I said, I mean, they really know better, and to keep it real with y'all, that's one of the main reasons why they are targeting them first, hitting them with these charges. It ain't really about so-called black people, all right, or them taking black people's side, all right. It's primarily about them trying to send their group of people a message that, hey, look, y'all need to turn down because y'all are at a disadvantage playing the game like this when y'all dealing with people like them. Alright? This is not how we play the game. Alright? Yeah, we give y'all a couple of movies to make sure y'all got a certain mindset out here. But we don't need y'all trying to really act like y'all the Avengers out here in real life against these people. Because if y'all ain't got weapons or something like that, or the government pulling up to kind of like save y'all are at kind of like a serious disadvantage. Because if y'all paid attention, black folks cleared that up fairly quickly. Okay? Alright? It wasn't really a struggle for them. And so, you know, I kind of think that's the main message that they wanted to send to them when they did that. But I think at the same time, that was a message that so-called black folks sent to them as well. Okay? All right, yeah, it was like a brute-like situation, but, you know, these people need to know that, you know, we're not to be played with like that. You know what I'm saying? All right? And you need to act like you know who you're dealing with, at least at a pedestrian level. And don't let whatever you're seeing on the internet or the movies or, you know, some little YouTube you found somewhere in the backyard where y'all just punking black people around go to your head. All right? Because that's exactly what has happened in my opinion. Alright, they've been living in this fantasy world, and some of these passes we be giving them out here in reality and pedestrian level be making them believe this whole fantasy. Alright, but so-called black folks definitely sent them a different message that day down there at that dock. Alright, at least at that level. Okay, and so that's what I would say. You know, I took it all in like anybody else, but man, when we get to the reality of it after that, man, that happened. And we look up today and ain't nothing really changed collectively for so-called black people. You know, we get to sit around and kind of jump around and celebrate over something that wasn't really much of really anything. You know what I'm saying? It was a grain in the bucket, okay? When we look at a lot of the issues that so-called black people are dealing with out here, both socially and economic. Because you know, we kind of might have won the battle. All right, but you know, despite these people having their problems and them obviously falling off today in so many ways, you know, they are kind of like still winning the war of things, okay, at a social and economic level in comparison to so-called black people. All right. And so they can be a little upset about that situation, a little salty about it. Okay. But they still can walk away with something to feel a little better about, because just at the time, their situation is looking a little better than so-called black people. And yes, it's because they are more likely to have government in their pocket in a major way. We've said this before. They are the biggest, okay, recipients of welfare. Okay, when we take it outside of just food stamps and Section 8, all right, there's a lot more government welfare out there than a lot of us think. Okay, I broke that down on that other platform. I might do a video over here. But you know, they kind of like looking a little better. All right. Meanwhile, with us, we still are dealing with a lot of situations, okay, that at the time, in my opinion, is simply not, it's preventing us from progressing, okay? And one of the main reasons why is because we are not pulling up to work and build with each other like we pulled up to help that brother fight on that dock that day. Okay, that's a major issue. That is our primary issue. Black folks don't work together to do anything for real outside of begging those other people to change and give us something. And, you know, doing brute stuff like this, which is fighting. They love so-called black folks fighting. Because at the end of the day, if they want to, they got something for that. Okay? They got something for that. They can make sure that brawls like that type of situation there doesn't happen again. Okay? And so they like you like that. It's hard for them to have an answer or a response, okay, that you can address, okay, at the end of the day. It's hard for them to have an answer, solution, or response to you constantly working to build something, okay, that's going to mean something for you and the people that matter tomorrow, on out to the world, even them, the right way, okay? Not the selfish, self-centered way, like how they got it set up today for themselves, okay? And so, man, that's what I really want to say about, you know, the situation. You know, yes, it was a good look. You know what I'm saying? That we stood up for ourselves down there at that dock. So-called black people. Yes, it was a positive example. We could take a positive lesson away from that situation. Okay, and recognize things that we can correct, which should be our foundational purpose. At least that's what we believe in our culture. But at the end of the day, man, we definitely need to be just as determined in more important aspects of life, man. Especially at the social and economic level. Alright? And so I just want to say this, man, and if you catch the end of this, man, I definitely hope that you checked out this entire video. Even if you got to come back. Because it's an important message. Go ahead and hit that sub button. Bell, like button. You know what I'm saying? We still dropping shit y'all like. It's 300.